they probably may be afraid. They wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, 7-year-old would understand, but they probably may be afraid to voice it out, or they wouldn't know how to voice what is happening properly. But what they will do though, and what I've found is that they, like 5-year-olds, will mimic. They will mimic the resident parents' views, right? So if the resident parent is saying that is saying negative things about the father, and you're interviewing the child, you will notice that the child will say, "I love going to dad. I enjoy going to dad." Blah blah blah. But then they will be mimicking mom's views. So if the professional has a way of interviewing, you will see that the child has got two views. Once they will say everything that mom has said, some will say mom said. Yeah, by quoting mom. And some will say that, yes, I enjoy going to the house, I enjoy this, I enjoy that, but mommy says A, B, C, and D. So it's important that we don't we're not negative around the children, because this is not, as I said before, it's not their fault. It's a complex adjustment that the child has to make by if he has to move. Now he's gonna be going into 2 homes. If the father gets a new partner, he's gonna have to be dealing with that, and then has to come to his home as well. So all of these things need to be taken into consideration. And so, as you said, it does affect them in the long term. I know that there's research to indicate that if parents separate and they are able to address issues civilly, the children have positive outcomes. And also, the children are able to deal with separation or divorce better. Because they will do well in school regardless. They're happy, they get to go to dad's house, they get to come to mom's house, and they're able to come back and talk about their experiences. So they enjoy both parents, as opposed to just so they enjoy both parents as opposed to just not being able to express anything because they are afraid, living in fear. And that is emotionally abusive to the children. Then you realize that when they go home or when they go to school, they start misbehaving at school. So that's one of the things. So I've said here that the impact depends on the age of the child. And then you have the disruptions to primary attachments, because it is disruption.
Of course.
When there's depression and separation, it's a big disruption to their lives. Imagine even adults having to move house and how it feels. Uncle, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I think one thing, talking about disruption to children, is that sometimes, because it's adult decision, the children will have to follow it my way, and sometimes we as adults are going through issues, and your adjustment, your own relationship with why this divorce thing is going on, you might be having other things, and whether the child likes it or not, they have to adjust. They will have to, even when they don't like it, they have to tag to you. And
you have to tag along,
and they are all things, yes, and that's why sometimes it becomes messy, because we are talking about a situation where children are involved. But if there are no children involved, that's a different situation, because adults could get on with whatever they are doing and not be able to have this implication. But when the children are involved, when children are involved, it becomes more complicated. It becomes more worrying. And I think we've highlighted about emotions. We have highlighted about how children struggle to settle, how children struggle to adjust. And all this impact is what we are talking about, the silent victims. Because with children, sometimes they will harbor things. And the only time you see them coming out is when they have a position or when they're able to express it. So some of the children who express it differently, they will, if they are not able to kind of verbalize it, they will have sleepless night. They will have nightmares. They will have a whole lot of issues, and they become victims of the relationship between the adults, which will impact on their emotional well-being. And it's something we as parents, much as we, I'm being sensitive here because when I use the word we can handle, divorce is a very difficult thing. And if I've gone through, you understand. Or if we hear people who have gone through and they are not very strong, it could impact on their mental health. And if you are a parent and you are going through divorce and you have children, then you might not be able to exercise your parental responsibility or role with credibility. And all this sort, you become even a victim yourself. And these are the things we got to be very careful and seek help along the line, because it's a process which is complicated. And we need to be aware that if you happen to be in that road, then you don't just do it because you just want to bulldoze your way through. But you got to be looking after yourself. You got to seek counseling, seek good advice, and support people around you, because sometimes people go through the process and they are damaged. They are hurt. They are depressed. They become mentally unwell, and it's something people need to be aware to be able to move on. Yeah.
I mean, imagine if adults are going through all sorts of things that you're talking about. How about the children? Because I'm hammering on the children a lot, because I know it's a big issue for them. It's a complex situation for children, and due to adult decisions, their life has to alter, and it alters big time. It alters big time. So we have to be very, very mindful of the children in all of this, and not put our feelings first. So I did put down here, some do's and don'ts about, for when parents separate. And one of the things that you just said and was top on my list was to take care of yourself before you can look after others. Yeah. So if you're divorcing, you need to make sure that everyone is okay. You're okay and everyone is okay. What do I mean by that? You're okay in the sense that if there's abuse in the relationship, then, and hence the reason for the divorce, then you need to make sure that everybody is safe. You and your kids are safe from whoever is perpetrating the abuse. You need to ensure that you're safe. Then the next thing you do then is to ensure that you try and do all you can to maintain peace. But from my experience, there's no reasoning with people who do not want to maintain peace. And if you look at some of the organizations, in fact, for court proceedings, if these days, before you go and apply for like a child arrangement order and stuff like that, the process is that you go for mediation. But those mediators, when you go now to seek support, what they do is that they don't get involved if there's domestic violence. So the court then will take, the case is accepted in court if there's domestic violence involved. If there's no domestic violence, then they will ask you to go for mediation. They will ask you, have you been to mediation? They will expect you before you come to court with any process of child custody issues. They would ask you if you've gone for mediation. You need to try mediation first to see how best you can resolve issues. So you try as much as possible to maintain peace with the children in mind. Because if you don't, remember what we said before. I don't know if the radio was, Wi-Fi was working and people were hearing me, but we did say initially that if parents are not able to co-parent or they're not able to resolve issues in a civilized manner, then it does affect the children in a psychological or emotional way. It affects their health, it affects their academic progress, and so on and so forth. And each child reacts in their own unique way. Mm-hmm. Some children may behave badly at school. Some children may even suffer mental health for the parents' bad behavior or constant conflict. We also talked about the children having split loyalties, because then they start to lie. The children are not able to enjoy themselves. But the children have the right to enjoy both parents. Remember, it is you as an adult, it's your decision to divorce. These children haven't asked for their parents to separate, and they have every right to enjoy both parents. So let's go to the do's. The do's, we said, take care of yourself before you take care of everyone else. So if one person is standing, then you can make sure that your other kids are doing fine and everybody is doing fine. You ensure that you're safe from risk of violence, because also during the time of when you're doing your assessments, one of the things that we highlight is that when the times of divorce and separation are also risky times.
Yes.
For somebody to be vindictive, or somebody to be very angry and cause harm.
Yeah, if I'm going to lose it.
If I'm going to lose it, then I lose it, or we all lose it together, kind of thing. So it's important that you ensure that your children and yourself, you're in a place of safety, and then you seek help from there. You also do all you can to maintain peace for the sake of the children. And then you give your, if there's contact, you've arranged contact and stuff like that. That's when there's obviously no risk. And I'm hammering on that a lot, because obviously in divorce, there are certain issues. Something must have triggered the divorce. One of them could be risk to you and the children. So that's why I'm hammering on that. But you need to give the children the emotional permission to enjoy both of you. Even if you've separated, try and resolve things in an amicable manner. And also, what do I mean by emotional permission? What I mean is that when they should be able to talk, I should be able to come home, Kofi should be able to come home and talk about mom. Oh, mommy, daddy did this, daddy said that, daddy. But if they come and they talk about, oh, don't you dare talk about that, that kind of thing, then the child becomes very fretful.
Yeah, and I think to add to that one, sometimes about objectivity, and sometimes when you sit down and then you got to be honest with yourself. Sometimes adults do not get on for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you could put your hand on your heart to say that the dad or the mom loves the children.
Yeah.
And you can't take that away from them.
You can't take that away from them.
It's very, very important that people become objective. People become, not because they look into their own situation and just become selfish, if I have to use that strong language, that you can't give the children the permission.
You have met selfish parents.
You can't give the children the permission
to
be able to be open, to be able to express it, because invariably children will come one way when they have the opportunity to express it, and they will
come and express it. Mommy, I had a nice time when I went to daddy.
And you can't take it away from them.
You can't take that away. So just because you're angry at dad or you're angry at mom doesn't mean that you should you should frighten the child or you stop the child from enjoying dad or enjoying mom. It's very, very important. Also, that brings us on to focusing on positive comments. Focus on the child comes, even if the child comes and they're talking about something, talking about the dad's partner or mom's partner, and you don't like it, don't say a negative thing, but keep it and then know what you want to say or how you are going to address it later. So you focus on, oh, really? You just say something positive.
Yeah.
I'm sure she didn't mean it that way. Or he'll come and tell you, ma'am, that auntie so and so said this. So I'm sure she didn't mean it that way. But then you address it later. You don't get upset and you say negative things. That is not good for your child. You don't want to mess up your child's brain. So it's very important to focus on positive comments. Also seek legal advice. Seek advice for the sake of your children. If you're entangled, you've been in a relationship for so long and it's come to an end, you need to seek legal advice. That's not because you're going to court, but just to direct you as to putting things together appropriately. Otherwise, you may be making wrong decisions. Don't get up and get angry and pack your bags and leave the matrimonial home. That's one of the things a lawyer said to me before. You don't grab your stuff, you don't grab the children and leave the matrimonial home. The home belongs to both of you. And then you don't also change the locks on the door, because that's joint. If the property belongs to the two of you, you don't do that until things are resolved. Auntie, uncle, you were laughing.
Yeah, taking the law into your hands. Ashanti to say Efira.
If you are not to so I say it's in the one to promo, you have to make sure that everybody, everybody is safe, or so making sure say, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Seek legal advice if you have to, just to get things in perspective, kind of thing. If you don't seek legal advice, you may be making the wrong decisions and they will come and bite you later. The other thing you have to do is, if you're supporting the parents or supporting the resident parents with the children, make sure you have evidence. You make sure you have evidence. Make sure that you're keeping the I will pay through the bank. And put your reference there. So
or if for some reason you have to give cash, let the person sign something for you. Because sometimes, because people's situation, they might say, all right, I work, I do some whatever situation. I think there should be evidence that
you should keep evidence that you're supporting, because otherwise you'll be accused of not paying or not supporting. Not supporting. You'll be surprised at the accusations and things that are leveled against the other party. And be consistent. If there's contact arrangements, and what is contact? Contact means that you taking the children to spend time with them. That is what is called contact. Spending time with your child.
No, that you take them and go and give them to Auntie B.
You don't come and carry your children and go and leave them with one auntie, and then you go out. You spend time with your children. So you come and pick them up, and then you take them out. You go to the zoo. You make plans. You have your structured contact. In that contact, you need to be consistent with it, because if you don't, then you disappoint the children, and they are gonna form a view about you. When daddy left, when mommy and daddy separated, daddy didn't come for us. Daddy will always say he's coming. I'm saying daddy because usually it's the man that leaves the home. But uncle, you being male, correct me if I'm wrong, but daddy didn't come and find us. Daddy didn't come and look after us. So when arrangements are made, make sure you honor them. Remember, you're trying to be reasonable. You're trying to be amenable in everything or the decisions you're making, and your other partner has been patient. And if she's made arrangements for you to collect the children, she probably has made arrangements to go somewhere. So if you don't come and pick the children, obviously it's affected the children emotionally. You've disappointed the children, and also you've angered your partner or your ex. So it's important to be reasonable and respect the other person's space. You need to show respect to the other person as well. Respect their space. You don't just do what you like. Don't think that just because you used to live in the house and you've separated, you can just walk in and walk out and just do what you like. You need to respect each other's, each other's space. And the next thing I will say is, seek professional help. Yeah. We've said that already. And then I come to don'ts. You want to add anything to the
professional help? Where does, depending on your religion, if you're a Christian, where does the Christian counseling comes in? Because sometimes when you're going through the professional help, where does Christian counseling or support? Because sometimes my advice is, before you get to that stage, you should get your own spiritual support in terms of, I mean, you might be seeking a professional legal thing, but you should get spiritual background, because sometimes a lot of things happen, and in decision making, you need people who can, if you're a Christian, who
exactly. I mean, if you have
support Christian, people who talk counseling to your head, so that, like we are talking about, sometimes you hear things or things, and people become emotional. They talk, and you react. It's important that even things you hear, you don't just react, because when there are children involved, they are watching, and the impact, as we said earlier, is very, very important. So people need to be aware that this process, and that's why I talk about mental health and about well-being, because sometimes you realize that people are overwhelmed with the divorce process, that you could hear them, or you could see that this is affecting this person, and it's important that you manage it in such a way that
you do counseling. I mean, you
hear things, and you seek counseling for yourself along the line. And if you're a Christian, yes, sometimes it's a difficult situation to get people who support you, but you got to seek people who knows what they are doing, or people who can say the word of God to counsel you through this process.
Yeah, I mean, I've done situations where I've referred people, I've made contact, and it's not only Christians. First of all, it's your background. What do you believe in? So I know that, I need that spiritual support in all of this. Spiritual health is very important as well, because if you have that inner peace, you'll be able to address issues. Sometimes you may be angry all day, but then if you see you have counseling with your pastor or your wherever you seek your spiritual support, it will help you to have that inner peace, to be able to come back again to revisit the issues in a more positive way. I've done situations where I've contacted the Muslim Council to refer families, as much as I've also contacted sought professional help for them. I've also contacted the Muslim Council and put them, because they are Muslims. In the same way, we will seek help. I'll ask the client to say, do you attend church? Because I see that as a very, very important support. So if you are in church, then by all means contact your priest or your pastor to talk. Some people don't want to share what they're going through, possibly because of experiences that they've had in their church, but there should be somebody you can trust, because in times like this, it's very, very difficult, and there's no way you can deal with it on your own. Counseling will be very, very helpful. So for you to keep it inside or not share with anybody, you need the family support, you need your pastoral support in all of this, and I think it's that is extremely important. Then when it comes to the legalities of things, that's when you need your mediators, and you need your of course the court proceedings, which is the last resort. So when we come to the don'ts, some of the don'ts that I put down, I'm thinking you shouldn't do. I think I've said some of it as we go along. Like, do not denigrate the non-resident parents in front of the children. Some parents will talk ill. They will speak ill of the ex-partner. Remember, you loved them before. And for you to be so angry at them that you have, the worst to say about them, what does that say of you? So it doesn't matter what is happening, don't get the children involved. Don't fight in front of the children. as well. I know sometimes tempers can rise and you react before you think, but it's important that you keep the children in the forefront of everything that you're doing. Keep the children at the forefront and don't really lose your temper in all of this. The other thing also is, I've said those already in terms of don't change the locks. The person also has the right to live in the matrimonial home unless there's risk. Yeah. Then they have to move out. That is in law as well.
And I think it's also important that people don't fabricate risk. So that sometimes there have been situations where people argue and they will fabricate things and they will people separate. People throw themselves on the stairs and say I was pushed.
I was pushed. Yeah, people have done it.
People have done things and
but you don't, Uncle. You know that when they do that, it's rather making things worse.
Yeah, and that's why it's important that because sometimes the process is said that it becomes fighting in the jungle where sometimes people just want to do the other partner, and as you said earlier, you were once lovers and things have gone worse. But thinking about you have children, and the important thing is that whichever way you do, these children are going to take both parents. Because we are talking about children. Somebody will say, what about when we don't have children? That's a different situation. But yes, because we are more or less,
I mean, the program is on the silent victims we're talking about. So,
the impact
So
also, you become a silent victim yourself before you are able to handle it very well. But with the children, as we said earlier, it's important that the implications you do, because as we said earlier, it goes long after you people have even sorted whatever you will sort. Because it will come out along the line. One day they are going to repeat, and children see things and they comment and it impact them. And also the example you are going to show to them as children that when they will marry or when they go into relationship, are they going to give up because you gave up as a mom or as a dad? So when you are doing things, sometimes as silent victims, the impact, because there are some children who say, if this is what is marriage, I'm not going to go into it. I'm not even going to go into relationship. Why? Because they've witnessed a very, very bad relationship between the mom and the dad. And we can't overemphasize that. When people are going through this thing, they got to remember that they are examples to the children, no matter how you do it. Whether it worked out, it didn't work out, you are example, you are role models to your children. And it's important that we looked into that and be quite considerate and not be inward looking, as I keep repeating.
The other thing is don't use the children against the other party. So you stop the father or the parent, the non-resident parent, from seeing the children. I'd always say that's just silly, because you don't deny that he was in the house before. He loved the children equally the same way. What has changed? What has changed? Just because you the two of you can't get along and you decide to separate, what's that got to do with the child? And if you keeping the child away from the other party, what will happen is that they will grow up to resent you. That's number one. Number two, you're doing the other party's job for them. You become overwhelmed. You let him go free. Let him also do his part. Why do you want to take on all the... Because in the end, especially boys, not even just boys, girls, the children will go and look for the other parent, and then the parents will explain everything, or they will apologize and they will forgive them. They have no choice but to forgive. And then what bregu? So why do you keep your child away from the father or from the mother just because you're angry at them, and then you're using the child against the other party? I don't understand why some parents behave like that. And some become very, very strong-headed, refusing. I had one case which was intractable. It went on and on and on for 2 years in court because every day there's a problem with contact issues. These parents were not compromising at all. the time should be correct. Like if it's 9 to 5 o'clock, it should be on the dot. But we are human. Something will happen and I might not be able to get there on time. The parent then can be stuck in traffic. One parent becomes angry and then they cancel their contract and then it comes back to court. It went on and on and what happens is this. If it goes on and on for so long, actually, the court can take away your parental responsibility and give it to the other parent.
Because you're not being responsible.
Because you're not being reasonable. So the court can't take your parental responsibility if the court gets fed up. If it goes on and on and on, this person did this. He went there. We have to have half, 50-50. This is a child, and you people are just misbehaving. Adults become children, and they just misbehave around the children because they can't come to an agreement.
And talking about this 50-50, I've dealt with situations in some places where young children who are of parents going to divorce and all that, and this 50-50, one of the parents lives in a place where if you take the children to school, by the time you get there, if you want to get them there, you got to get up early in the morning. And they want to do this 50-50 when the school time. And you realize that
50-50 doesn't always work.
Because if the children need to get through the traffic to get to the other school, they go to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
And the children complain.
Yeah.
And when they go, they don't do.
They're not happy.
They're not happy. They go to school and they are sleeping.
Yeah.
And
because the mother wants the children to come Monday to Wednesday, and then this one wants the children to come Thursday. They don't have consistency.
So sometimes it's about being reasonable. So yes, when you're talking about silent victims, these are some of the things.
If you love your children,
it's about a reasonable, so that even when you have to extend yours during half term, and sometimes they say, I'm working I prefer during the weekday. You have to be reasonable, because when you are separating and there are children, it's not because you want half, but it's about what is best for the children
exactly.
at the time.
What is best for the children.
That you become unreasonable, and also the impact is that you be trying to score points with 50-50, but the impact on the children will be so negative that they will tend to hate you.
Exactly.
And in the process, you realize that they become the victims. They become children who loses out because they might not be getting to school early, or they go to school tired. And sometimes that's why you also get the schools getting involved, because they will be report. And the schools should never take sides because you are dad or mom. It's what they see about the children, they will report to you. Exactly. And some parents become angry because, why are you taking sides? Because mom comes here and report this. Yes, they don't go in and ask these things. Very few parents will ask about questions about your life at home, but it's what they see about the children, and they will report to one of you. And so we got to be mindful of these things. Yeah.
And the other thing that some parents do also is just to paste things on Facebook.
Yeah.
So even if if you think that, my children don't go on social media, their friends may be going on social media, and they will be picking up things, and they will come, I saw you on Facebook, on daddy on Facebook, or things like that, or they're not looking, or their friends are not looking, but their parents may be on Facebook, and they will be searching. And so once they search, then they talk about it to their children. So this is complex in terms of parental separation. And people have to be very, very mindful of how they deal with issues where divorce and separation is concerned.
I remember some situation where I don't think it was divorce. Anyway, you're talking about social media, so it's in the context. Somebody had a party somewhere, and there was a conflict with the dad, contact and all that. And this person had a party with champagne and had the audacity to put this child beside the champagne bottle in wherever pop or whatever they did, and pasted it on social media. And the other partner wanted to score points, and brought it and was making it a big issue. I don't mind if you have your party, but why are you showing my child with this bottle there and the way the people were smoking around my child and all that. And so you don't make, because sometimes, yes, the person was saying, oh, the children are having their sports, but why do you bring the child in to do the photograph? And also you put it on social media. So when we are talking about divorce, people need to be aware of the photograph they take, and now that we have social media, when the evidence is there,
it's even worse.
Yeah,
now,
when the evidence is there, nobody talks about it because it speaks for itself. And it's about sensitivity. It's about also looking at the impact of what you are doing, because sometimes people want to be spiteful and they want to
people are spiteful.
And they don't think
having more time than the child and all of that.
And we are having parties and all that. But, yes, it's not about your lifestyle, which you are as an adult have control, or it's your choice. But when you have a child, and when we are dealing with people who make judgments, people who see the evidence and make decisions, it's not good for you as a parent. And it's something people need to think it through. That yes, you might be doing your parties and you'll be smoking and do your drinks. You don't bring your children and run the shot to take it, because your other partner will use it against you when they have the evidence.
The other thing also I put down for don't is not to coax the children. Some people will just say things to the children about the other party, especially when it's in court. Because when you go to court for custody issues, obviously they will talk to the children and ask for their wishes and feelings. So when you ask them for the wishes and feelings, you could see or you could hear, you would have had the interview with the mom, and then you were having an interview with the child as well. You could hear you could hear the child echoing mom's views or echoing dad's views. So it's very, very important not to just coach this child or coax them in any way at all. Don't interrogate your child as well when they go for contact and stuff like that. Let the children just enjoy the parents, and don't use your child as a weapon, because you're actually harming your child. I can't stress that enough. Some parents, I know of somebody who's separated from or who's divorced from the partner, and she's made allegations against the children and against the husband, and kept the children away from the father, and the father had to stay away. But for how long? The children will come back. They will resent you because I'm sure they remember their experiences at home or the experiences of their father, and it wasn't negative. It is you who's telling them it's negative.
And I think that's why it's important, talking about separation and all that. Sometimes people make allegations which you cannot retract. And they are so serious that if you have the evidence, you confront the person and deals with it. But sometimes it's in the middle of divorce, and sometimes the children, when you ask them, depending upon their age, talking about wishes and feelings, it didn't happen.
So it didn't happen,
you realize that it's been spiteful, or the way, especially the where the male dad and children, and dad is got close relationship with the children, and mother is jealous about that. Sometimes some of the mothers could say things which it's not. And when you depend upon the age of the child, when it's with the child, they will say, is mom mad? Or is the other partner mad? Or they will say things. And sometimes, yes, children in this country, they will express themselves. And they get angry. And that's when you start doing that, you are bringing a gap. You are making a situation where you are going to have children who are going to hate you. Because with children, as we keep repeating, once they have an opportunity to express themselves, and some children, once they get to university, they don't even want to come home. Because that's the time in this country they have a first opportunity of going away from home. So rather than the time they are supposed to, they're taking the part-time job where they are, and they cannot come home because now you have developed home. So we got to be mindful of our children, that whatever we as adults have gone through, that we work it through, that it doesn't impact on the children negatively. It doesn't make the children behave in such a way that we, the adults, are saying things to them which is not true, which we cannot even evidence, because we just want to score points, or we just want to damage the other partner.
The other thing I want to also say is, and I'll say this normally to the non-resident parent, be it the mother or the father. Usually it's the father. if, for example, the parent, the other parent, or the resident parent is putting barriers in the way for you to not to see your child, I think that you should not give up easily. Don't give up on your children, because you love your children, and then that what the mother's actions should not block you from pursuing to see your children that you love so much and you've worked so hard for. There are avenues that you can go through. I mean, we may not be able to talk about them now, but there are avenues that you can go to get custody legally of your children, or to get the order to have contact or spend time with your children. So don't give up. At the same time, don't be aggressive, but take it through the right channels. And sensible people, or the courts or professionals, will see through what the other party is doing, because the children will be spoken to, and parents have rights. The child has the right to spend time or enjoy both parents. So vindictive parents who do not allow, or who will use the children against the non-resident parents, should be very, very careful, because you're just harming yourself in the long term. You may think you succeeded now, but in the long term, the child will grow up hating you. Yeah. So do not use your child against your ex-partner. Do you want to add anything to that?
And I think it's also, I've seen situations, and I've come across through work, where some place years ago, a child who was in the care system and was so much damaged, going places, not staying anywhere, not knowing that the mom has said to the child that your father is dead, or your father is left the country, or some serious something. I remember I don't remember the short story, but that the father was not around. And through some investigation, this father was on the scene. Assessment was made, and this child, who was all over the place, breaking placement, saw this, that, and all of a sudden, all that the child needed somebody, a male model, who was to support the mom. But when the child started having contact with
the father,
and things started improving, he was going to school. He wasn't academically, but the father was able to kind of put extra class, and the relationship. Then, when the child came back to mom, the things he said, which I remember very well, was, "You said he was dead, or he's left the country, or something like that.
You are a liar." Yeah.
And the child said, "I will never come to you again. I will never." And that time he was about.
And the child resented mom.
Resented mom, and this woman was in tears to say, "Oh, he treated me badly. That's why I didn't want you to go in there." And that's what we were talking about initially. If there have been abuse or something, you have to be because now with social media and all that, children grow, and now with research, we like in our job, you will track, if the person is in the country, you will track it down through DSS or through police checks and all that. So it's important that even if you had difficult relationship, that you say to your child, "I don't know where he is at the moment," or something, but not to be say something which it come out later. And once children grow, they will want to become curious, and because sometimes they realize that their habits does not resemble you. So they are curious. They want to find their identity, and that's where the issue starts. So yes, it's important that in trying to kind of say something, you don't do something that when the child comes out later and they are in a situation where they can find their other partner, mom or dad, that it doesn't become something which will backfire.
So this brings us to where we talk about the parents understanding the child's needs. And I think that we've said quite a lot about that anyway, where the child can become angry and sad and emotional as they grapple with the abandonment. Sometimes they will think that the parent has abandoned them, the other parent has abandoned them, but actually it's the mother or the resident parent who is actually stopping the contact from happening. So they also, so that's very, very important, that when you see that your child is behaving like that, maybe seek help for your child as well. They also think that they are to blame for the divorce. So, maybe they didn't behave well, or something must have happened that, has caused them to, has caused the parents to separate. The other thing also is when the children underperform in school academically, of course. They will, in a bad divorce, it affects the children negatively. And one of the things that happen is poor academic outcome. And children will also fantasize in that the parents are coming back, or they may resume the relationship. They keep hoping that their parents may resume the relationship sometimes, and you need to help them by trying to get them to understand that you're not coming back together. You must be very open with them. And the children also the sadness can lead to isolation. They can become lonely and have social difficulties in terms of how to make friends and stuff like that. So it's very important to keep an eye on your child and the way they're behaving during this difficult or turbulent time for the family. The last bit also is that you as a parent, you need to clean your mess up. It's really our mess as adults, not the child's mess. And we need to clean it up, as opposed to just leaving things and fighting constantly. The longer the conflict, the greater the impact on the child, or the children for that matter. If you keep the conflict going, it's having an impact on your children negatively. So you need to sort out your issues like adults. And so that they don't have split loyalties. And how would we help our children through situations like this? Again, that would be that there's countless research to say that children are affected emotionally, physically, and academically and psychologically. So it's important that we help them. And when you look at the research again, it talks about the positive outcomes for children if parents resolve the issues in a more civilized manner. So one of the things I was looking at was the fact that it's important to tell the children. Don't leave them guessing. Sit them down and tell them in a child-friendly manner.
So who does it? Both parents?
Both parents. Both parents have to tell the children. One person doesn't tell because they're angry. They're going to sit there and they're going to speak negatively. So both parents have to tell the children. It's very, very important. And if you think that you can't do it, you need to get support to do that. Because your child has the right to family life. Your child has the right to enjoy both parents if there are no safeguarding issues. And I've moved on to children's rights, of course. So if there are no safeguarding issues, your child does have the right to enjoy you both. They have the right to spend time with both parents as well. This is the court's belief, obviously. So if the court doesn't find any fault with a parent, they don't see why you should be in court. You shouldn't even be in court. You should try and address all the issues outside of court. Parents need to provide the best chance and care for their children so that they can develop healthily. And then if parents positive, what are some of the impacts if parents parent the children positively, if they are able to co-parent positively?
I think life is full of experiences, and I think one of the things resilience we all learn in life is things will happen to children. You could have children whose parents are unwell and they go through and they come out the other side. Divorce is also part of it. And when you do it as adults, because you are not able to do it, the children learn that even in worse situation, it becomes a problem-solving skills for them. Because
that is good.
They've seen their parents going through something, and it's about how you handle things. And that's why we talk about objectivity. It's not because you it didn't work out for you as adults. You are pushing your negativity on your children. You are doing something which these children will come out and say, I will not even do it. Because you fail doesn't mean that your children are going to fail. Yeah, because maybe you didn't seek counseling, maybe you went into it with a motive which backfired or didn't work out. So we got to reflect that it's not just us, the other people around us. So yes, if we're able to do it well and handle it there, it becomes something they also see that yes, even in a negative situation, our parents were able to do things.
Yeah, they have
and support us.
That is very, very good problem. That point is very, very good. Because then they gain that problem solving skills in their own lives as they grow up. They see their parents as positive. They then enjoy the parents. They're open. They don't need to lie. Because they go and see dad, come back, and they're just full of joy to talk about their experiences. And then they go and see mom and they come back, they're full of joy as well. So it's very important that they when it gets to that point, post divorce, obviously you co-parent positively. It also leads to positive emotional, the emotional warmth that you provide for the child. Both of you do it. You get the dad who's, covering up for mom and mom covering up for dad. And, sometimes dad can just pick up the phone and said, Tracy, it's difficult today. Can we do this tomorrow? But some people, if it's not positive, if it says Tuesday, it has to be Tuesday, whether you are dying or not, which is very bad. So people need to just chill out to make it easy for the children. Mutually, that's where you have the mutually supportive parent. It promotes the children's behavioral and emotional adjustment because these children are adjusting, remember. So if you work, in a mutual, truly supportive manner, then it promotes their adjustment. So I think it's very, very good in us. And let's look at some of the messages that some children have said. Sent. It says here. It says, all right, me and dad don't like each other. We don't get on. Rather, what the child is saying is that I love my dad, and I hate it when my mom and my grandma talk bad about him. This is a 13-year-old. And he's hearing what's being said. I love my dad, but I hate it when my mom. No child wants to hear anybody speaking ill of their parents. Sometimes the parents may be, I've got children whose parents are in prison and they still want to see them. They still say he's still my dad. So no child wants to hear people talking ill about their, their parents. And the other one says, I don't like my mom's new partner. And then one is also said, he said, you never like to hear horrible things about your parents. So I just don't talk to him about it, about mom. So this is a 16-year-old who's saying that he hears negative things from dad. So he never talks to dad about it, about mom, because he's hearing, as soon as he wants to talk about mom, dad is saying negative things. So he ends up bottling things in his head. And then what does he do? He misbehaves. And that becomes emotional. That's how we talk about the negative mental impact on the children. Then the next one also says, they said, well, they said they were hearing, the parents didn't talk to them about it. All the issues that were happening, the parents didn't talk to them about it. But obviously they knew all about it.
Well,
and the parents should have just called them. We knew a lot of what was going on, they said. We knew a lot of what was going on. And we felt kind of like we were being pushed out of it. And children see and hear a lot than what is realized, That's what the children were saying. This is a 16-year-old and the 18-year-old. Said, me and my brother knew a lot of what was going on. So, I mean, in short, that's what we're trying to say, that we should be very, very careful about the whole thing.
And I think in the example of what you're giving up is that because the dynamics children observe. They see things around. I've seen a child who I think was first year in secondary school, second year secondary school, and this issue about grandma and mom talking about, the child heard so much that even when they were going back home after contact, they would say things like, "Oh, I know you cannot even talk about anything to them about that because he and mommy will be talking so much about daddy, and it's always when we even want to go to contact, they don't want us to go." And it was like those things. They were saying things, and the children realized that it's our dad. And as we said earlier, if the relationship is not working between adults, you don't do things to prevent the children, because children in this country, they will go to school. So these children had gone to school and were saying things, and even the head teacher was trying to bring, not the parents, because it's not their role to say to the other partner who was not allowing, to say, look, what we are doing, these children are not happy, and you have to be mindful of it. So these are the things we got to, because sometimes people will say, oh, it's a social worker who said it. We don't go there to say things.
Yeah.
They will go to school and we will get a referral. Yeah. Or one of the parents will be vindictive or say things. But when you are able to speak to the child on their own, they will say something different. So it's about being aware and not to say things negative to the children because you want to score points or want to damage the other partner.
Yeah. So my advice to children would be, we're coming to the end of the program because we could go on and on and on. But I think that we've managed to really put it together for, for parents or for all those concerned out there. My advice to children would be that talk to your parents and let them know about how you feel. Sure, yeah. And don't lie against any parents. Don't feel like you have to lie. Both parents love you very much, and if you have any difficulties, just talk to them about it. You do not have to make things up or to get points from one parent or the other. It's a shame that children are put in that situation. And also, moving on from there, there are so many resources out there in terms of agencies that people can contact. You can contact Relate. You can contact, do you have any more agencies? You can contact your church, of course. You have contact Citizens Advice Bureau if you have any issues. Yes, you can contact, even if you go on the CAFCAS website. NSPCC have got information. You just have to Google them. Yeah. You can contact Divorce Aid, Childline, National Family Mediation is there. The Money Advice Service. Yeah. And there's so much. What is good about this country is that there is so much support out there. You just have to know where to look. That's why we're here. The Community Welfare Matters. We're here to support you. We're here to signpost you. We are here to advocate for you. And we're here to seek information for you in all the areas of issues that you take place in your daily lives. If you don't understand anything, do you have any questions about your children's education, your child's behavior, parenting? For the discussions, you just if you have any questions, you just put them on and we'll just discuss together. We learn together and we discuss together. I'm learning from you and you learn from me as well. So thank you very much. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, link us with us again.
Nothing came today on
yeah, people came watching, but yeah. People are now coming. But I can't see it.
They didn't put comments.
Okay, so we had people coming. Did we have any questions here? So because we're having Wi-Fi issues and stuff, yeah, we're having Wi-Fi issues. So, are we off or we're on? We're still on. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just key in on your Facebook. Very soon I'm going to be giving you telephone numbers. Hopefully by next week we'll get our numbers ready. But if you have any questions at all, parenting, housing, we will find the support. No issue is too big or too small for you or for us. And we will find the support and just hold your hand and we'll go together. So keep listening to us, and thank you for joining us today. Catch up again next week. Don't forget to tune in. COP UK Radio.